Hi guys, thank you for joining me for the Queen Esther Bible study. So this is our very first one. There'll be 5 total, and these will run a little bit longer because we're going through the entire book of Esther. Now, this book is just the same one we use at a church. So we're doing the NRSV Bible, but I'm going to paraphrase and just tell the story from it. I found that a lot of the youth versions or children's versions missed some details that I thought were pretty important to the story. So as always, we'll do our highs and our lows, and I encourage you to do this as an entire family. So for me, my high is that our dog who was sick did get into the specialist veterinarian, and he did give him some medication, and the dog's feeling much better, which is great. My low is that our dog, our old boy, he is in heart failure. So we have a limited amount of time, but at least we know, and we can spoil him rotten while we're at it. So let's start with our story. So in our story, there's a king, and he is incredibly rich and powerful. And he throws a 7-day festival. And this festival has all of the powerful, highly educated men that are in his kingdom or in his area. And it lasts for 7 days, and there are golden goblets and feasts, and the wine is flowing, and there's anything they want is the king gives to them. So it's a big, huge party. And this king has a queen. Her name is Queen Vashti. And Queen Vashti has all the women who she knows and are in her circle and who are probably somewhat powerful as well, or at least married to some of these powerful men, come to her as well. And they have a 7-day feast. Well, at the end of the 7-day feast, the king decides, I want to show off my beautiful wife to all of the people at my party, at my festival, at my feast. So he has his servant go and tell his wife, the king would like to see, is calling for you. And the queen says, no. This makes the king very upset because nobody says no to the king. And she did. So he goes to all of these very intelligent lawyers and powerful people, and he says, what do I do about this? What is your advice? And these intelligent men give him advice from the standpoint of the law. They say, your wife disrespected and disobeyed you, the king, but she didn't just disrespect you. She disrespected all of us. And all the women who were there at her party saw this, and they know this. And they're going to start disrespecting us too. In fact, this is going to get around, and women throughout the entire kingdom are going to start saying no to their husbands and disrespecting their husbands. You have to punish your wife for this. You have to punish the queen. So the king did exactly that. The king put out a rule saying King Vashti was never ever allowed in his presence again, and that she would have to give up her crown and would no longer be queen. I'm sure this was upsetting to her, but it doesn't say anything about it in the Bible. Well, after the king calmed down a little bit, and after he took her crown away from her, he decided he still needed a queen. So he ordered in all of the provinces, all of the land, all around him, that the most beautiful women from the provinces, young women, should be brought to his kingdom, should be brought to him. And once they are in his palace, they would receive a year of beauty treatments, of oils and perfumes, and a year of training and advice as well. And there is one young girl who was brought to the palace for all of this, but she didn't grow up in a palace. Her name was Esther. And she actually was an orphan. Her father was taken with a lot of the other Jews by King Nebuchadnezzar. And they don't say what happened to her mother, but her mother might have been taken as well. So she had no parents. So her cousin, Mordecai, took her in. And he raised her as his own daughter and loved her as his own daughter. So she went from being an orphan to being adopted to then being taken to a palace for a year's worth of beauty treatments and then see if she would be chosen as queen. This had to have been pretty overwhelming. Well, she was also very smart, and she took the advice of all the people around her. So Mordecai, her cousin who raised her, said, "Don't tell anybody you're Jewish. Just keep your own information to yourself. Just listen to people around you." And then the servants who were giving them beauty treatments and training them and teaching them gave advice as well. And it doesn't say specifically what the advice is in the Bible. But one thing they do tell is that when the women were finally able to go see the king after a year, they would go visit the king and they were allowed to take one item into the palace to see him and to meet him. The Queen Esther, or Esther, I should say, took what the servants told her to take. Again, I don't know what that is. Was it a certain dress that she wore? Was it certain earrings? Was it a favorite perfume? I don't know. But she did something, and she did what was advised to her. And the king absolutely loved her, thought she was great, and sure enough, he decided she would become his queen. Now, Mordecai, he had raised her as his daughter, right? Well, he wasn't about to just, leave her. So Mordecai spent his days actually walking along the palace or outside of the palace or in the courtyard to see how she was doing, to find out if she was okay. And he did this while she was in her year of training and even after she became queen. And one of the times that Mordecai was in the courtyard, two of the servants who were upset at the king started talking. And they started to talk about ways to kill the king. Well, Mordecai heard them talking and knew their plan. So he went, and when he was able to talk to Esther, when she was in the courtyard and he was able to talk with her, he told her the plan. And she told it to the king and gave credit to Mordecai. Now keep in mind, at this point, no one knows that Mordecai is her cousin, or the who raised her, and nobody knows that she is Jewish either. She's kept all of her business very private, just to herself. Well, the king was very happy about this, and those two guards were both killed as their punishment for trying to kill the king, or for plotting to kill the king. So that's where we'll stop there. I just basically paraphrased Esther chapters 1 and 2 just now. So let's talk about this. This is kind of an exciting story. How would you feel if you went from an orphan to being adopted to being pampered in a palace, then to being all the way up to queen? Pretty overwhelming, huh? So I think one of the things that we have to remember, one of the lessons to take from this, is that God has a plan for us. I'm sure Esther, when she was a little girl and an orphan, had no idea, probably couldn't even have dreamt that she would have actually become queen. So next time you are upset or in despair, remember, God's got a plan for you. So let's talk about what our activity would be. So this is an activity for all ages, really. And if you are of a mindset that you like to write stories, you may want to write this down. But kids, tell your parents, or write down, or even adults, if you're good at writing and enjoy writing, put a little story together. How do you think Esther felt? What do you think it was like to go from an orphan to a queen? What must it have been like to go to the palace or to see the king for the first time, see the glory of it all? How would it have felt? What were the smells? What were the sights? Go through. Use your imagination. Have fun. So we will end with prayers. So Lord, I pray that everybody who is watching this has your peace and your healing, that everybody who is watching this is able to feel your comfort and know that you are with them no matter what, just like you were with Esther the entire time she went through all of this. Amen. And blessings to you, blessing to parents, blessings to kids. Have a great day.